She showed up at my door at 11:47 p.m. on my 30th birthday with a folded piece of paper she had apparently been carrying in her jacket pocket for 6 days. I knew it was 6 days because I remembered exactly when I had written the matching one. We were 12 years old, sitting on her porch in the dark, and we had made each other a promise the way children do, with tremendous seriousness and absolutely no understanding of what we were agreeing to. The agreement was simple. If we were both still single at 30, we would marry each other. We shook on it. We pinky swore. Then we spent 18 years being best friends and never once talking about it again. That night, standing in my doorway with rain on her coat and a piece of paper in her hand, Nora Ellis said, "I found mine." She held it up like evidence. I had forgotten how to speak. My name is Daniel Carr. I'm 30 years old. As of 11 hours before that moment, I had spent most of my birthday doing exactly what I always do, which is to say very little that could be called celebratory. I work in urban planning, which means I spend most of my professional life making city council members understand why a pedestrian crossing matters. I live in a second-floor apartment with a coffee maker I treat with more consideration than most relationships I've been in. My social life is, by most objective measures, fine. I have friends. I go to things. I own a functioning couch. By 30, I had expected to feel more settled than I did. But I also expected to feel less whatever the word is for the specific ache of being almost certain you have made one enormous mistake without being able to name exactly what the mistake was. Her name was Nora Ellis. She was 30 in 4 months. She worked in museum curation, which meant she spent most of her professional life convincing donors that the provenance of a 200-year-old textile justified what she was asking them to spend. She had a laugh that arrived with a half-second delay, like she decided to let it out rather than it escaping on its own. She had a jacket with a broken zipper she had been meaning to replace for 2 years. She had a way of setting her coffee cup down too hard when she was thinking through a problem and not realizing the conversation had moved on. She had a piece of paper she had apparently kept in a shoebox in her closet for 18 years. We had met when we were 9. She had moved in 3 houses down and accused me of stealing her bike, which was actually just another bike that looked exactly like hers. I did not steal her bike. I told her this for 45 minutes before her mother came outside and resolved the situation by pointing at Nora's bike, which was in their own garage. Nora did not apologize. She said, "Well, it looks like yours," which was technically backwards, but she said it with enough confidence that I found myself nodding. We were best friends by the end of the week. That was the whole story, except for the part where it wasn't. The existing dynamic was, she was my best friend. I was hers. We talked every few days, saw each other on Sundays most weeks, had argued about everything from film adaptations to the correct direction to hang toilet paper, and had never once crossed any line that would have required us to name what we were doing. We had an agreement that neither of us had ever mentioned since we were 12. I had thought about it once a year, on my birthday, the way you notice a smoke alarm when you're not sure if the battery is dead. I had not expected her to show up with the note. The birthday itself had been small. My friends Jake and Priya had taken me to dinner, which I appreciated and which ended by 9. My sister called. My mother called twice. I came home, changed into clothes that required no effort, and was in the process of watching a documentary about deep-sea geology, which is not, I want to be clear, as bleak as it sounds. It is actually quite soothing. When someone knocked on my door at 11:47. I opened it, and there was Nora. She was wearing the jacket with the broken zipper, which meant she had left wherever she was going quickly or without planning. Her hair was damp. There was something in her expression I had never seen in 18 years of knowing her face, which was that she looked entirely uncertain about what she was about to do, and had decided to do it anyway. She was holding a piece of folded notebook paper. The notebook paper was old. I could see that from across the threshold, the yellow of age at the edges, the faint blur of pencil graphite that had been pressed against another surface for a long time. "You're still awake," she said. "It's barely midnight." "Right." She looked at the paper, then back at me. I was going through my closet. The shoebox. I knew which shoebox. She'd mentioned it twice over the years, the shoebox from her mother's house she'd brought with her when she moved. She'd never told me what was in it. I'd never asked, because there are things you know not to push on with the person you've known since you were 9. "I found mine," she said. She held it up. The handwriting was hers. I could see that even from where I was standing, the neat block letters she had always used, even as a child, like she was filing a report. The word promise was visible across the top fold. Something in my chest shifted. Not dramatically. Just enough. "Nora," I said. "I know," she said. "I know it's late. I know. But it's your birthday. And I found this, and I have been sitting with it for 6 days, trying to decide if I was going to say anything, and then I realized that not saying anything was also a decision. And I didn't want to make that decision without you knowing I had made it. I had poor survival instincts around women who talked like they were presenting evidence against themselves in a case they intended to win. "Do you want to come in?" I said. She looked at the door like she was recalculating something. "Yeah," she said. "Okay." We sat on my couch with the documentary paused behind us and rain audible against the window, and she set the note on the coffee table between us like it was a third party to the conversation. Which, I supposed, it was. I said, "You kept it. I kept a lot of things from that summer. But that specifically." She looked at it. I thought about throwing it away. A few times. When I was dating Marcus. When you were with Caitlin. She said the names without any weight, just as landmarks. But every time I got to actually doing it, I didn't. I told myself it was because it was funny. Like a souvenir. Was it? She looked up. No, the rain against the window. I said, "I have mine too." She stared at me. "In the kitchen," I said. "In the jar on the counter. The one that's supposed to be for important receipts. You put a childhood marriage pact in your receipt jar. It seemed like appropriate documentation." She laughed, that half-second delay laugh, and then she stopped laughing, too quickly, and looked at me in that way she had when the thing she was feeling was too close to the surface and she was deciding whether to let it all the way out or put the lid back on. She looked away. "I looked you up," she said quietly. "On my phone. Last week. Like Googling you. Which is insane, because I know everything about you. But I looked up when your birthday was. Like I needed external confirmation that it was actually today. That it had actually been 18 years. I did not say anything. This was one of the few moments in my life where I understood instinctively that speaking would be the wrong choice. "I changed your name in my phone," she said, "a long time ago." "Changed it to what?" She didn't answer immediately. Her fingers tightened once around the note she was still holding. Something embarrassing. "Nora, something I should not have changed it to if I was going to keep convincing myself this was a completely normal friendship." She set the note down. "I've been calling you home base since 2019. Which is, I know what that means." I felt something in me snap into place. I hadn't moved. I wasn't sure I could. Sitting across from Nora Ellis with her damp jacket and her shoebox note and the name she had given me in her phone, I felt the very specific vertigo of a thing you have known for a long time finally confirming itself in language. "You don't have to say anything else," I said, "if you don't want to. We can put the notes away, watch the documentary, and this can be a conversation we had once and never revisit." She looked at me for a long moment. She picked up the note. She put it back down. "No," she said. "I don't think I can do that anymore." "Okay," I said. "I came here because the pact was expiring. That's what I told myself." She was looking at her hands. "But that's not why I came. I came because for 18 years you have been the person I called when something good happened. And when something bad happened. And when nothing happened but I felt like talking anyway. And I have been watching you date people who were fine. They were fine, Daniel. And feeling this thing I did not have a clean name for, and telling myself that the name didn't matter because you were my best friend and that was enough, and it has been enough. Except that I found this note last week, and I held it, and I thought, I don't want the version of 30 where I never said this." The room changed. She looked up. "Every girl I've dated," I said, and then I stopped. Because I needed to find the right order for the words, I have compared them to you. Not consciously, just the way you know the temperature of a room before you've thought about it. I would be with someone, and something would feel slightly off in a way I could never name, and the off thing was always. It wasn't them. It was the fact that when I wanted to tell someone what had happened today, it was your number I was already reaching for. I exhaled. "It's always been your number." She went very still. "Nora," I said, "I have been in love with you for approximately the last 8 years, and I think I owe you a genuine apology for not saying something sooner." She laughed. It came out wrong, wet at the edges, slightly broken. 8 years, she said. I'm estimating conservatively. "Home base," she said. "That's what I picked, because you're where I always end up." She looked at me with an expression that was half laughing and half something I had never seen directed at me before. Something open and a little frightened and entirely, completely certain. "I can't believe you put yours in a receipt jar. I didn't know what else to do with it." She reached across the coffee table. Her fingers found my hand, and she held it, not dramatically, not like a movie. Just her hand over mine, the way you hold something you don't want to put down. "Hi," she said quietly. "Hi," I said. From the kitchen, my phone lit up on the counter. Jake had apparently sent a group birthday message at midnight with an inexplicable number of balloon emojis, and the notification sound was loud enough that we both looked in that direction at the same moment and then looked back at each other. And Nora laughed. A real one this time. The full version. And the thing that had been in the room shifted into something that felt less like an ending and more like a door that had been waiting for someone to try the handle. 3 months later, she still had the broken zipper on the jacket. I had found the replacement zipper online and was waiting for the right moment to bring it up without it becoming an argument, which is the precise dynamic of a relationship that already works. A year after that, she moved 15 minutes closer. Not for me, for a position at a better museum, but we stopped pretending the geography wasn't convenient. 2 years later, when people asked how we met, she always said, I accused him of stealing my bike. And I said, I did not steal her bike. And whoever was asking would look between us with the expression people have when they can tell they're only getting the abbreviated version. And Nora would smile the smile she kept for things she didn't feel like explaining. She told the full version once at her sister's kitchen table, and when she got to the part about showing up in the rain with a note, her sister said, "You carried that note for 18 years?" And Nora said, In my defense, I thought it was funny. And her sister said, "Nora." And Nora said, "I know. I had married my best friend." The paperwork was appropriate. The receipt jar had been insufficient. Nothing important had appeared overnight. It had simply stopped hiding,